Inspiring interviews with today's top landlords. This is the Rental Income Podcast. And now, Dan Lane.
All right, joining me on the podcast today is Jason Balin. He owns 20 rentals. He's been building his portfolio over the last 2 years and has done a real great job of putting together an awesome portfolio. Jason, welcome to the show. Why don't we start with you just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got started buying rental properties?
Thanks, Dan. Glad to be here. So we started aggressively buying rental properties about 2 years ago. My business partner, Chris Haddon, and I, we're located in Howard County, Maryland. We grew up together, and then we created a bunch of businesses together. So we've always been business partners. And we've had kind of dabbled with rental properties over the years, ever since we kind of got in business. And then about 2 years ago, we decided that we really wanted to add rental properties to our real estate investment portfolio. And, we've aggressively been buying ever since. Most of our areas we concentrate are Baltimore County, Maryland, Anne Arundel County, Maryland, and some areas of Baltimore City.
So 20 properties in 2 years, that's really, really aggressive. Is there a certain type of property that you're buying? Are you kind of buying the same type of property over and over, or are you just looking for something that's a good deal? If the numbers make sense, you'll buy it.
Yeah, so we have an interesting formula that we follow. We divide properties in areas into what we call A, B, and C areas. Uh-huh. So an A area would be a nicer type of area that doesn't necessarily have much cash flow, but over time we feel like it would appreciate. A kind of a higher end area, maybe a better quality tenant or resident in that area. And then on the other opposite side, there would be C areas that you can buy at very low values. They'd have a lot of turnover, but the cash flow would just be tremendous on a monthly basis. Mm-hmm. But we felt that those areas just wouldn't appreciate over time. Whatever we paid for them today, pretty much there'd never be any equity in them, but they'd have great monthly cash flow. And then you have B areas, and that's actually a lot of the areas that we concentrate in. The formula we buy at is 1.5% of our all-in cash or our all-in exposure. So for every $100,000 that we're into a project, if that's cash, private money, bank money, we try to get it to spit out $1,500 a month in gross rental income.
That's an interesting number. I've heard about investors using the 1% rule or the 2% rule, but 1.5 is a nice middle spot. How did you come up with that number?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it kind of came in from chance. I mean, we also have a lending operation as well. And one of our reasons why we were kind of against rental properties to begin with, and, I've changed my views on this a lot and love buying rental properties, and we're extremely active on it, is, we lend out private money and hard money, and we were able to put our own personal cash into that, and it spits out a really good return. So we had to look at, if we're going to buy rental properties, we want to make it worth our while and spit out a good return. And, there's obviously some headaches in buying rental properties. It's not always kind of just because I'm getting a $1,500 a month rent from a tenant, that doesn't mean that's going to be consistent month after month, year after year.
Right.
That's the gross number. So we felt like that was kind of the risk versus reward figure of where we wanted to come at. And it is hard to find deals like that out there, but at this point of the game, that's just where we've been concentrating on.
And what are you buying? Single families, townhouses? Like, what do you guys like buying?
Mostly single families. We have a few townhouses and we have a few multifamilies, but a lot of them are single family.
Do you like multifamily better than single family? Or
we only have two multifamily, and to be quite honest with you, I'm not all that experienced with it.
Okay.
And and it's mostly just because we haven't had that many cross our desks. I don't know if there's just less, smaller multifamilies in our area or not, but I just don't have a lot of experience. And a lot of them are single family houses.
Okay. Well, take me back to when you guys were first getting started. Tell me about that first deal. How did you find it? Tell me about the house.
he started doing more, and then we started doing joint ventures with him. And then it was somebody we could trust. And we're big advocates of having business partners, but having the right business partners, because it'll make or break a transaction. And this was a guy that we were comfortable with and we were doing good business with. And his responsibilities were, finding good deals and managing the contractors. And he remember bringing us a deal and looking at it and us saying, I don't know if this is a great deal to flip, a great property to flip, because we flip a good amount of properties as well, but I feel like this is a good rental. We never really owned rentals before. Maybe we should kind of consider going down that path. And it's obviously been a really big learning experience, related to getting long-term debt and capital for these types of projects, and, coming in on budget with construction and following or finding quality tenants. But this particular deal, I think, was attractive to us because, it wasn't all that expensive. I think it cost maybe what did it cost? Maybe about $50,000, and it didn't need a lot of work. And we were used to larger projects. This thing needed maybe $8,000 or $10,000 worth of work. And it spit out a really good return. So I said, hey, there's not a ton of risk or cash allocation into a project. Let's try it and see how it works.
And then how did you build the portfolio from there? Like, how were you, to find in 2 years, 20 deals, you must be marketing pretty aggressively to find that many deals.
So we have 3 marketing campaigns, and they're all pretty automated at this point. We have a direct mail campaign, and we mail 3 different types of target audiences: absentee owners that live out of state, estate sales that there's not that many of them because we only buy in 3 counties, and we also pretty active with, I don't want to use the term scraping MLS, but we have a few target agents that know exactly the types of deals that we're looking for in the areas that we're looking for. So they're active on our behalf on MLS.
Okay. So are you just putting in a lot of offers? Like anytime you see something where the numbers might work, you're making an offer?
Yeah. Well, we know, like, for instance, some of the neighborhoods that we're in, we own 3 or 4 units or single families in that exact neighborhood. So we know exactly what we can pay for it based on, obviously we have to firm it up with the construction numbers, because most of our projects, I should probably say this, all have a construction component to them. Okay. So we've never purchased anything that has a tenant in there or was already renovated or in good condition. They all need work.
Okay.
So because of that, we know exactly what our buy price would be. So it's pretty easy to say if you can get something in this neighborhood. And also, the one thing I missed was we also do direct mail to those farm areas, those certain areas, because we know, something on, whatever, Dove Court, let's just use that as an example, is worth this price. We know that worst case scenario would cost this much in construction to get it to where we need it to be. So we can back into exactly what we can pay for it, which saves us a lot of time, because we can, it's, hey, this is what we can pay for the property. This is what we can pay for the property. This is what we can pay for the property. Right. It makes it a lot easier than kind of reanalyzing everything on a one-off basis.
And so you said you've got that direct mail totally automated. Do you have like a mail house that's?
Yeah, we use clicktomail.com.
Okay.
Which is the easiest thing in the world. It takes about an hour the first time to set up the campaign. And then after that, if it takes me 5 minutes a month, I'd be surprised.
and then where do you get the names from that you're mailing to? Like, is it all in Click to Mail?
You can buy them through Click to Mail. You can buy them through listsource.com. So estate sales, local estates are manually inputted. And I think we buy that list monthly. There's not many of them because there's only so many, deaths that go through that estate process, per county per month. Mm-hmm. So there's not that many of them. And like a farm area one's easy because I can export that through MLS or tax record to get addresses for the mailing stuff. And our marketing is pretty targeted to the areas that we already own properties in. And then with exceptions, deals come from outside of that. Sometimes a realtor brings us a deal or a wholesaler brings us a deal in a different area that we're not used to. And, we obviously entertain it, but a lot of our stuff is just the same target areas over and over and over. So it's pretty easy to go after.
When someone calls in off your marketing, are you going to their house to walk the property and see the house, or are you able to do it over the phone just by them telling you the condition of the house because you already know the value in the neighborhood? So how does that work?
Yep, that's right. We usually do it over the phone first to make sure it's a reasonable request before we go out there. And like I said, we know, for instance, what the value is, how much leverage I can get from my bank to give me a long-term takeout loan on it. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of back into a formula of worst case scenario, it's going to cost us $40,000, to get this place where we need it to be. So this is what we can pay. So it's usually a range of, this is approximately where we're going to come in at based on the condition you told me your property was in. And if they can work with that range, then it's a in-house meeting. Okay.
So hypothetically, to get to your $100,000 target that you're going to rent out for $1,500 a month, if you know that that's probably going to need $40,000 in work, your offer is going to be around 60, or that's where you're targeting to buy it at?
Yeah. So So actually, that $100,000 also includes our costs as well, like our purchase costs, some holding costs. So a deal like that, and that's a very common one because we have a lot of properties that we're all in at 100 that rent out for 1,500. Mm-hmm. It's not only is an easy figure to do in your head, it just happens that a lot of properties fall into that.
Okay.
We would pay 50, about 50. We'd renovate it at 40, would be in at 90, and we'd have about 10 grand in additional stuff, which comes to about purchase costs, a few months of holding costs, and financing costs on the front end until we get it refinanced. So the goal is for us is to get every dollar out of that property with long-term debt on it that we put into it.
Okay.
And if we know we get $100,000 from our bank out of that thing, we try to match it up very close to that. It doesn't always happen exactly, but that's our target.
Have you had any problems getting financing with having 20 rentals? Have you ran into any problems, or are you using portfolio lenders that don't have a limit on how many properties you can own?
We're only using small commercial banks with no portfolio limit.
Okay.
They're all under our entity and personally guaranteed, and we have lines of what's it called, a guidance line.
Okay.
That every time we have a property, like we already are. So what happens is they approve you for a guidance line under a certain amount. And, if I have $100,000 deal that they're refinancing us to take us out on, because they won't refinance it till there's a tenant in there.
Okay.
The way ours is set up, they'll do an appraisal, they'll figure out how much they can lend, and then they'll refinance us, and they'll take us out.
Okay. So then your properties, you've got none of your own cash in there. Everything's taken out, and then you're cash flowing great because your numbers are so good at 1.5.
Yeah, that's the goal. I mean, they don't all work perfectly to that. I mean, there is a good amount of properties that we do have some of our own cash into them, but we try to work off of that target. And it's not the end of the world if we have a few $1,000 or $10,000, into a deal.
Yeah.
Based off of the cash flow that's coming up. But the target is to try to get every dollar out of it that we can.
Okay. Now, the rap in Maryland is that Maryland isn't a very landlord-friendly state. In your experience, is that true?
So it's a good question. Compared to DC, I think it is. Uh-huh. Obviously, the stuff we have in Baltimore City has to be 100% lead free. From the beginning, there's things like that. We have never, I don't think we've ever evicted anyone on this side, on the rental side, but in my lending company, we had to foreclose on somebody who had it rented out, and we had to evict. And that was kind of a pain in the neck process. It was a long process. I can't speak educatedly enough on it because I haven't really been through the whole process.
Okay.
Even 20 properties to somebody may seem like a lot. To us, I feel like it's a little bit. I mean, we have in-house, we manage everything in-house. We used to actually have a property manager, and we took it over because it made more sense to keep things in-house. And we've been trying to be very active with our tenants to make sure they're happy, and it's a win-win situation. So we've had issues, but a lot of the stuff we brought them in the office and we figured out a way. Maybe it's just a workout plan of, I'm running financially having issues. I need to work through something. It makes more sense to work somebody out than paying money to go through the eviction process and having turnovers. So, So far that's been our process.
Now, you said you're managing it in-house. So is it you and your partner that are managing it, or do you have someone on your team that works with the tenants?
I have somebody on our team that works with tenants. We call her, our property manager. Okay. She handles a lot of tasks, but it's one of those things that, just like any business, you do one or two, it's not bad. It's manageable. Then you have like 3 or 4 or 5 as a one-man operation, and it's just unbearable. You can't do it. Right. And then the more you get, kind of the easier it is. Recently over the last few months, we put some really good software in place. We've created operations manuals. We put good systems in place for things. So there's no kind of guesswork to it anymore. Back in the day it was, and not that day was that long ago, but with a few projects, like, I'm not sure, we haven't really been through that before. And there's still things we haven't been through, but we try to systemize things. So payment coupons go out, this month. If they don't make their payment, this goes out, this email goes out, this phone goes out. Every quarter we do in-house inspections to see what the quality of the property looks like. So we've been trying to lock a lot of those things up as we've been growing, just to make it a little bit easier.
How are you collecting rent? Are they mailing in checks, or do you do it online?
So we use a software called Yardi, which I highly recommend. Okay. And they can do it online, or they can mail in checks.
Okay. Well, and I'll go ahead and put links. I know you've mentioned a couple different websites. If anybody wants to check anything out, you can go to rentalincompodcast.com/episode 59 and check it out. Well, Jason, this was a great interview. I thank you for coming on the show. I've learned a lot talking to you. If somebody wants to learn more from you, where's a great place to track you down online?
Sure. So probably the best place to track me online is hardmoneybankers.com. It's our lending company. We're a hard money lender, Maryland, Virginia, DC, and Pennsylvania. Our rental properties and our flip business is, I don't want to say a side project, but like our lending company is our big baby. It's our big operation. So that'd be the best place. We also have a software platform for real estate investors, which is rei360.net.
Thank you for listening. We'll be back with a brand new episode next Tuesday. My name is Dan Lane, and this has been the Rental Income Podcast.